just doesn't like my taste.
And yet you're still married. Something's right. Welcome, Justin.
Yes, hello, Justin.
Hi, Justin.
Welcome to the committee.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yes. And Cheryl, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Patrick, you're still here.
I'm still here.
That's a good thing.
I like to think so. And Scott came. He said he's going to be joining.
It's not quite 6 o'clock yet anyway, so I don't think you're it.
So we're doing okay. We're making it work.
The old meeting room.
What's that?
That was our old meeting room.
That's right, yeah.
There already is meeting in that room.
That's right.
With a little update.
Yeah. Looks a lot bigger now.
Yeah.
Yes, it
I was going to say it's a little bit roomier on Zoom too.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's Scott Wassel. I'm dialed in.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Good evening. So did you say you didn't hear from Doreen or?
No, I haven't heard from her. Her husband, like I said, her husband came to pick up the package today. So she's got it, but I haven't heard from her about whether she's able to attend. So if you want, we can get started or your call.
Okay. So I guess we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02, right?
Yeah, I'm going to record the meeting too. I know Walpole Media is recording it, but there might be a scheduling conflict that they got to jump off this meeting for. So I told her that I'd record this meeting. Let's see, record to computer.
Recording in progress.
All right, there we go. All right. You want to start, Ed? Kick us off?
Yep, so we're called to order at 6:02. And I think the first thing on the agenda is to reorganize, correct?
Yep, that's right. So we'll be looking for a chairperson, vice chairperson, and a clerk to take the minutes. And I know Cheryl's already indicated she stopped in. She's not interested in doing minutes this year.
No, after such a good job, nobody.
I
did
know.
that.
I'm going to be away tomorrow, so somebody else can have fun.
I'm the worst note keeper, so I can't even read my own afterwards. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually in the car right now, so I'm a bad candidate for that.
Actually, Patrick, this recording thing, we just click on got it, and then.
Oh, yeah. If you got a message that popped up, just click got it.
All right.
Like I said, I'm just doing it in case Walpole Media is going to jump off to hit the select board meeting. Otherwise, it's going to be recorded on and put up on their YouTube and Walpole Media channel anyway.
Okay. 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 Any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Ed Forsberg as the chair of the Capital Budget Committee.
Second.
Okay. So, any discussion? Vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? I'll abstain.
Pat, do we have to do a roll call with this? Where it's.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we're going to do a roll call. And we're doing this remotely. So if you don't mind reading the list of names.
Cheryl?
Yes. Aye.
Josette?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
and Scott.
Yes,
And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, and 1 abstain. I'll abstain. Okay. All right. For so we want a vice chair too.
Your
Would
call.
would the secretary become the vice chair?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary yet. We got a pretty packed
Yeah.
capital budget schedule this week and next week. So if you want to, you certainly can, but
Okay.
I don't know if it's necessary.
Okay. All right. So we need a secretary for notes. So, any volunteers? Josette, you've been around for a while. You always take nice notes.
But I'm FinCom. I'm not actually capital budget member.
Is that okay, or is
Yeah, Josette, if you and me want to work together, we can do the minutes together. Is it all right if you don't mind helping keeping notes, and then you and I can, if you want to give me your notes, I can help with that.
Okay. I was of the impression I couldn't do any of this being the liaison for FinCom. Because I was nominated last year for vice chair and I said no, or the year before, excuse me. So clarification, I'm not finding fault with it, just clarification.
All right. Well, I'm not a member of the capital budget committee meeting either, capital budget committee either.
Okay.
So the two of us will both be in the wrong together. How's that sound?
That's perfect, Pat.
All right, great. Thanks, Josette.
all right, I'll nominate Josette as secretary.
Seconded.
Second. There you go.
Anybody else? Any further discussion?
Well, just quickly, today was my first day, I did look up what it says in the charter, and it doesn't seem to make any distinction whether you're one of the 6 appointed by the moderator or the 1 designated from the finance committee. Doesn't seem to be any sort of distinction in the charter language.
Okay.
Okay, Pat, we're winging it.
All right.
Okay, all in favor of Josette as secretary?
Aye.
Should I do the roll call right away?
Yeah, please.
Cheryl?
Yeah, aye.
Josette?
Abstain.
Okay, Leah?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Scott?
aye.
And I will say aye. So we're all in favor? And that would be 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay, so is that all set for the,
Yeah, the front end business. Yeah, that's great. And if you want, Ed, I could take this moment to kind of give a little overview of the capital budget, the capital
do.
process. All right. So good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Patrick Shield. I'm the assistant town administrator, and this is the first meeting of the capital budget committee. We got a pretty big capital budget this year, and it always seems like it's really quick. You get 2 weeks out of the year, but we've got a really concise fall town meeting schedule that actually kicks off tonight. The select board, they're voting tonight to close the town meeting warrant, and it's like a mad dash between now and the middle of September to get everything lined up, to get information out to the residents and into the hands of the town meeting members. So town meeting is going to be on Saturday, October 23rd. So another outdoor town meeting on the high school football field. And like I said, the select board, they're determining the warrant tonight. And this is part of the initial process. So what I'd like to do is just share my screen. I think in your emails yesterday, you should have received an electronic copy of the capital budget. It was missing the school department submission. I know Mike Frisha, who was out last week, is working on finalizing that. So they're not meeting with us until a week from tomorrow. So they get a little bit of time to kind of get me that. I'd like to, get that to you as soon as possible. But they're among the final departments we're going to be meeting with. So why don't I'll share my screen real quick. All right, so you should see my screen here. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go through, especially for those of you, we don't do it too often. And for those of you who are new to the process, I'd like to just go over the capital budget real quick and the overview. So I had this cover sheet here. If you scroll down, first item here is the 2-page, the capital budget summary. So we've got 8 articles on the warrant this year, which is a little bit more than what we usually do. And it's split up in terms of the type of physical betterment as well as the funding source. So you see here, each of these blue rows delineates a new article. So capital infrastructure improvements for Article 6, capital equipment purchase for Article 7, street and drainage improvements. So these are being funded through free cash as well as Chapter 90. That's the state's highway program. That's an annual amount that we not the amount's different, but it's an annual program that we receive funding from the state every year. We have the town borrowing for equipment and infrastructure improvements, and the funding source here is borrowing. Water department and sewer department, the funding sources for these 2 articles is the retained earnings. The water department borrowing and sewer department borrowing. So you'll see down here we get the grand total of the way that it's split up. You get this column here, which delineates department requests, the funding source, and then the town administrator's recommendations. And then as this process moves along, this column will be filled in with what your recommendations are, and ultimately what the finance committee's recommendations are before it gets to the town meeting. So bottom line, you'll see the departments requested 16.4 million in capital budget projects this fall. The town administrators recommending just a little over $15.2 million in projects. And you'll see down here is how we summarize each of the funding sources. So free cash, this is the amount of budget restricted funds that have been certified by the state from the previous fiscal year. And we get that amount from the state, that certified amount. And there's a few formulas that delineate where that money goes. Some of it goes to our OPEB. We have a McKinney-Vento article and high school parking article. So some of that money goes back to the school department. But here's what's remaining from free cash for capital spending. Chapter 90, like I mentioned, that's our state highway program. Ambulance revolving funds, you'll notice throughout the document, those are funding some of the fire department capital requests. General fund borrowing, reappropriation of previously approved town funds. That's when projects are finished out, but there's still remaining balances. Either we managed to get it, under budget, and that's what's remaining. And then water retained earnings and sewer retained earnings. These are the earnings that are collected for the sewer and water enterprise accounts. And then water borrowing and sewer borrowing. The water department and sewer department have their own debt service. So you'll see how that breaks down in terms of the funding sources. So just like I said, it's split up by the physical betterment and the funding source. And then if I scroll down even more, you'll notice that we've got our 5-year capital improvement plan. In this column here, we've got this present year, and you'll notice that it balances out to what the department requests are. And like I said, we'll continue to fill this out as this process moves along. But we also use this as a planning tool down the line. So, let's say a department has a major piece of equipment that they're anticipating, or like the engineering department, for instance. I know that they've got some investments they're looking to make to the Allen Dam. This tool allows us to plan for those investments up front, so we're not caught off guard down the line. It's not concrete, but allows us the opportunity to kind of plan ahead. So it's another 2-page document here. And this is more like, there's nothing concrete about this. This is, if you ask those departments, where do you see yourselves in 5 years? This is what they're anticipating. Let me see, scrolling down. And this is just the schedule for this capital budget season. Like I said, it's going to be really concise. This evening, we're meeting with the general government departments comprising of the select board, finance department, IT, culture and recreation, including we've got, I think, Bill Buckley for the 300th anniversary, which we're anticipating in 2024, and Pat DeShanes from the new Community and Economic Development Director. So I'll stop here. I know that there was kind of a lot. I don't know if there's any questions before we really start diving into this. Anybody have any questions? don't even know how to stop sharing. Any questions before we get started? No? Okay. All right. So I'll pull that back up again. So the first items on our agenda tonight are the select board items. I'll take the lead on these ones, and then as we go into the other departments, I'll turn over to those department heads. We've got several department heads on with us tonight. We could talk about their requests. So the first item here is the retirement system assessment study for $50,000. Some of the town meeting members that are on the capital budget committee may remember that back in the spring, there was a citizens petition to withdraw the town's pension contributions from the retirement system and essentially invest that money into the state's retirement system. So ultimately, the finance committee voted 14-0-0, no action on that article. And they were prepared to make that recommendation at town meeting, but there was a substitute motion on the floor of town meeting that essentially took the poll of the town meeting members to study this matter more. So, the message that we received and the town administrator, Jim Johnson, he's received was that we don't want to close the door on it entirely. If there's a way to do this, we can certainly study this. And that's what this funding is for. So the total amount that was requested was for $50,000, and that's what Jim, the town administrator, is recommending. Any questions about this request?
Pat, I have one question.
Yep.
Does the town have a specific company that does this, or does this go out to bid?
No, I'd imagine for something like a study like this, Josette, we'd have to go through a procurement process. I don't know if we'd go out to bid for it, but we could. I think what we would do is put together an RFP, and I think there's several firms that could do a study like this that would help us determine whether or not this is a viable option.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Patrick, with that being said, how did you arrive at $50,000 if there was no bid or anything, to kind of get an idea of what it would cost?
Yeah, so this is more sticking, throwing something against the wall and see what sticks. We have no idea what something like this is going to cost. I'm hopeful that for a study like this, we can get this done for $50,000. We've done similar studies before that examine operations that have been less than $50. So this is just kind of a let's see if we can get something good for this amount, and if it doesn't work out, we can always put in another request. But I'm hopeful we can get a good study in for this amount of money.
So Patrick, what really is involved in the study? I mean, are they just checking out companies or?
Well, I mean, so there's a lot involved in it. If you remember back from town meeting, there were some legal logistics that we'd have to figure out. Town council at the time advised that it was something that could only be authorized by special statute for the town of Walpole. I'm sure that they take a look at investment returns. If it's something where we're going to withdraw from Norfolk County Retirement and set up our own retirement, what the costs that are associated with that are going to be, either one-time costs or indirect costs. The town doesn't run a retirement board, so it's something that we're necessarily familiar with. And essentially what this is doing is setting up a whole new municipality. So we'd have to study exactly what that consists of, if that's something that the town administration is instructed to do.
So Patrick, do you know what departments would be affected by this? Because I assume the teachers are in the Mass Teachers Retirement Plan, and the police may be in the state plan or not. I don't know. So is it everything but the teachers? Is it which part of the town workforce is
Yeah, that's
currently
exactly
in
right.
this?
Yep, that's exactly right. So pretty much every municipal employee that contributes to the retirement plan now would be affected by this.
So that would be everything but the teachers then?
That's correct. Yep. And people that, there's individuals that don't contribute toward the retirement plan, by nature of it being like a special position or certain part-time positions. But essentially all full-time and municipal employees.
And currently that retirement system is through the Norfolk County?
Norfolk County Retirement Board. That's right. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I imagine there'd probably be a penalty involved if we decided to change and left in Norfolk County. That's something that would be investigated too.
I'm sorry. I'd say it one more time.
Well, a lot of times there's a penalty when you withdraw your money out of funds like this, correct? So
Yeah.
that would be part of the study. They would identify.
Yeah. And I don't know if that would be the case for certain. I would imagine it probably would be. But again, like I said, we've never done this before. I don't know exactly what would be involved with withdrawing completely from the retirement board.
There may be a
And again,
penalty for the board, but there would not be, this would be a rollover. So there would not be a penalty because it's retirement funds. Because it would be going from fund, approved fund to approved fund.
In the study would basically be to look at, are we better off staying in the Norfolk plan, moving to the state plan, or creating our own plan? Are those kind of the three options?
Yeah, and I want to be upfront that we don't even know if this is legal. We've been advised that it's not. We need
Sure.
to see legislation that would enable that. So some of the discussion points that were raised by the petitioner back in the spring were that was the angle that I think that he was seeking, was to withdraw us from the retirement plan and either invest. The exact language for his petition was to invest in the state pension system. And like I said, our attorneys have advised us that that's not permissible. We're not state employees. We can't just invest in a state retirement system. So another option would be either, setting up our own retirement board. But again, that would involve setting up another municipality, parallel to the town of Walpole. It wouldn't just be another department. It would be something else entirely.
So let me get this straight. So we want to spend $50,000 because one person thinks that the Norfolk County retirement isn't good, and everybody else is perfectly fine with it. And the finance department voted 14-0 to stay in, yet we still need to spend $50,000 to say we want to stay in. That, I don't know if that makes sense to me.
So the town meeting did vote to. If the town meeting did vote to. There was a substitute motion, and actually I get the exact motion here, to provide the select board with a sense of the meeting and direct the select board to conduct a study as to whether the town of Walpole should leave the retirement system. So there wasn't a roll call vote or a standing vote, but a majority of the town meeting members voted in favor of this. So this is following through on what the town meeting has asked, the administration, which is to investigate this further.
There was also conversation that come this fall, that the Norfolk County Retirement Fund would be coming to Walpole and doing a Norfolk County regional meeting here with a Q&A to be able to be asked, which the last time that was done was under the previous administration. And so it's probably about 10 years ago. And it was very informative, and we had representatives of every community. It was held at the library, and it went on for like 3 or 4 hours. And it was, as I said, it was extraordinarily informative. But at the same time, Scott, I hear what you're saying, and being a member of the FinCom, the gentleman that brought forth this article was very adamant in what he was saying. But when we listened to our legal people, they said that exactly as Patrick just said, that because we're not state employees, we're town employees, that you cannot, without having the state do a special order, just automatically go from Norfolk County to the state.
And if they do it for us, they would have to do it for everybody.
Exactly. And the only reason they have done it previously has been for communities that have gone bankrupt, which obviously, fortunately, we're not in that situation.
Yeah.
But it's, Patrick is correct also with the town meeting. It's like a bad virus. Once the thought is out there, people feel like they're being taken advantage of. So to have the clarity of what this can or cannot be legally is worth having, it's worth clearing the water instead of having this individual constantly stirring up things with possibly, and I say possibly because I'm not an attorney, not correct information. And it comes at a cost, unfortunately.
So if we issue this study and the consultant or determines almost immediately this is not legal, I assume we would just shut it down after 5K or 10K of spending and just say, thank you very much.
Yeah, just because we've, let's say, for instance, this committee votes in favor of this and recommends it, and the finance committee does too, and town meeting appropriates it. There's nothing to say we need to spend this. Again, this is more just to cover our bases. We haven't done a study like this before. So this was, again, this is from our perspective, following through on what town meeting has requested of us.
Cheryl, I agree. That was my thought. Let's find out if it's legal before we go too far. That should be the number one first step.
Yeah.
If it's legal, then maybe we could, expand the study. But why get too involved if it's not legal from the get-go?
Yeah, I'm sure we can craft the milestones on the SOW or whatever, just to say, these are the check-in points, and you wouldn't release additional funds unless you answered certain questions, and then you would progress forward. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, Patrick, but I'm sure we can craft it that way. So.
Yeah, because obviously step one is it legal or not? And if it's not legal, then you don't have to spend any more money
Right.
figuring out which one's better if you can't switch anyway.
Right.
Correct.
And can we just
Seems like
ask,
a lot of money for the study, so that's first thing, just get an attorney or something, and number one, find out if it's legal or not.
Yep.
And then decide if you want to continue, right?
sorry, is this something that we could just ask town council and sort of be done with, or is that not?
We
Is
did.
that
Already
not-
been there.
Yeah, so I will, like I mentioned, that we have had and received multiple town council opinions on this. I do want to just specify here that it does say whether the town should leave the retirement system. So I think what might be involved in this might be like a cost benefit analysis, and there's varying rates of return. Maybe would study the reasons why, but yeah, as far as legal opinions, we've already received the legal opinions, and we've got several of those. So, all right. Any other questions?
Sorry, excuse me 1 second, Pat. Who would ultimately decide whether it's legal or not?
Excuse me.
If the attorneys can't agree like that,
No, the attorneys have agreed. The attorneys have agreed that it's not legal.
So this
Oh.
is just getting an outside confirmation that
well,
it's not, possibly get an outside confirmation that it's not legal, right?
okay.
Yeah, and to investigate if there's other avenues that might be available to the town.
Okay, you all set?
Yeah. Any other questions on this?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So the other item that the select board has requested is a training with the National League of Cities. It's their REAL training, which it's an acronym for Race, Equity, and Leadership. And actually, the select board met with the National League of Cities back in March to learn about the services they offer as it relates to addressing systematic and structural inequities. So the board voted 410 back in March to sponsor this request for a real, it's called Real 100 short-term engagement training. So with the training, if race is the strongest predictor of success, the training points out, what jurisdictions can do to close that gap, and recommends targeted strategies for improvement. So as part of your packets, you'll notice it was pretty lengthy handouts. This is from the National League of Cities. So included in the training, it would involve an assessment for the elected and appointed town leadership, trainings at the 100 level, technical assistance and assistance for continuity and sustainability. So $15,000 was what was requested, and $15,000 is what Jim is recommending.
So,
Did I read that this might continue into next year or years after? Is this just a one-time thing, or is this
Yeah, it's a one-time thing. There's multiple modules, let's say, that can build onto it, but what they're looking for is just a one year short-term package for now.
is this in person or remote? And if it's remote, can it be taped?
I would imagine that it's remote. I participated in the National League of Cities partnered up with the Mass Municipal Association a couple months ago, and it was like an abbreviated version of their 100 level course. So I participated in it. It was remote. It's pretty much PowerPoint presentation driven. So I think remote would be the best method to deliver this information. As far as what's involved here, I would imagine it's still probably remote. They didn't record it a couple months ago, I think, because it is fee-based. Once it's just out there, it kind of would be hard.
Did you learn anything you didn't know, Patrick?
Truthfully, I found it very, very helpful. I mean, being in a position, my position deals pretty heavily with human resources. So it was a great kind of starting point for me as a professional administrator to figure out, okay, let's all get on the same page about some of the inequities that may be institutional, and how do we vocalize this, how do we articulate this, and just make sure we're all on the same page. So yeah, I found it actually, it was for my participation, like I said, it was free. I think there were 3 courses, each about an hour long. But yeah, I found it actually really informative.
Is this going to be a mandatory attendance for town employees?
We'd have to figure out, obviously as this moves along, who would be involved. I know that they were targeting initially leadership positions. So, I would imagine, administration, department heads, several elected and appointed officials. So we'd have to figure out who would be involved, at least at the starting point, and take it from there.
Anything else?
Pat,
Oh, go ahead. Suzette?
go ahead. Pat, what was the impetus for this?
It was just something that Select Board Member Ben Barrett had set up with the board. I know that the National Leagues of Cities has been working with jurisdictions all across the country providing these trainings. I know, on a national level, and actually certainly on a state and local level too, there's been discussions about systematic racism and structural inequities, and just coming to the forefront. And so Select Board Member Barrett organized this meeting with the Select Board and the National League of Cities, and that was the impetus behind this request, was
Okay.
those discussions that took place at the board level.
I can tell you in the private sector, this is a very, very big deal right now. It's, obviously to address current events, it is important, but there's a reputational component to this, there's an optics component, and there's just the need to think differently about how we interact with people in the workplace. So I'm for this, just because if we don't do it and something happens, we don't look very good as a town.
Yeah, I would definitely also speak in favor of this. It seems like something, especially after the all the controversies that we went through with the rebel name change. And if you look at the
Good point.
2020 census data,
Mhm.
Walpole's becoming increasingly diverse, much more diverse even than it was 10 years ago. So I think this is just something that's
That's true.
important to invest in.
Yep.
And if our town values, just a diverse population and all these things, then we should put our money where our mouth is.
Mhm.
Agreed.
I appreciate your input. Being somebody who's retired and much older than all of you and not in the workforce, you bring a different tone to the meeting, and I really respect that. So thank you for your input.
All right, any other questions on this request?
No, I think we're good.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the Finance Department. And I believe Jody Cuneo, the Finance Director, is on. Jody, are you on?
I am here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Jody.
So as Patrick said, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jody Cuneo. I'm the Finance Director, Town Accountant here. And I put in a request for an upgrade of our financial software. So Tyler Technologies is the parent corporation, and Munis is the name of the software that we use. And it encompasses all financial aspects of the town. So it pays our bills, it does our billing, it does our collections. Everything goes through this software so that we can manage our financials at the end of the year and report properly. So Munis will no longer be supporting the version that we're on right now, which is version 11.3. And we have to move to a new version, which is Tyler Hub version 2019.1. And that's going to be a major change for us. We have, everything is going to look different. It's going to be more web-based. And so we are absolutely going to need to train our users. So included in the $11,000 is training for everybody. It's going to be a tough one, and hopefully, people can adapt and change with it. We really don't have much of a choice in this matter.
Can I ask a silly question? Tyler 2019, it's already 2021. Is there not a more up-to-date version, or?
There is, but it's not recommended that we jump to the next
Okay,
to the highest
that's what I
one.
thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say. Yeah,
You never want to be an early adopter. with
I
software
know.
That's right.
First.
Any other questions?
So is this a licensed product, or is it like a one-time? Do you have to have is there a fee per seat, or is it a fixed amount?
I think our IT director can answer that better than I can. However, this is, I forgot what I was going to say. I lost it. I'm sorry. Oh, there's
okay.
Mike. Mike can answer that question. Mike is our IT director.
This is, what do we have? I think we're licensed for 50 concurrent users at this point, Jody, or something like that, if you remember correctly. Yeah, each one of the modules of the software has a different cost, and moving to this, what it's primarily going to be is an interface change. So the way we interact with Munis software now is through this little client that we use, and it's, I don't want to say it's archaic, but it's archaic.
It's okay.
So, it gives us the ability to actually do all the same functions through a web browser, which is, it helps IT. Once the users actually, it becomes culture within the town, it moves business along a lot quicker. From what I've seen, it speaks to me, and it's evolved in a way that I think will be conducive to speeding things up and making things more efficient. But, back to your question. Yeah, I think we're at 50 concurrent users right now. Those are our seats, if you want to call them that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's probably going to stay relatively flat, right? In other words, there won't be any surprise.
Yeah, Tyler Technologies, year over year, they do tend to increase at an average of 3% per year. That's what I've seen in the IT department. So every year I've got to make sure that I budget accordingly. But, you know, it's like anything really, you know, the cost of everything eventually does go up. So
Yeah, definitely. And is this cloud-based?
we have an option to go cloud-based, but I'm not a fan of that. I like to keep things in-house. God
Yeah.
forbid
Well, it's
the internet
for-
connection.
for security purposes, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it happens to be a wheelhouse of, this is what I do all day for work, so is ask questions like this on software technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's, you know, it obviously cloud-based software has got its advantages.
Yeah.
Security, you know, let's talk turkey. You know, when you're talking about a cloud-based software, it's, your security is really only as strong as your weakest password. And, you know, where it's in-house, I can shut off the rest of the world if need be and isolate the town.
Yeah.
Keep things
Exactly. And sorry, one last question. I assume this comes with a standard service contract?
That's right.
Okay.
I think it's listed right there in number 12.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the $11,000 includes the first year of maintenance, and then Mike will budget for the maintenance contract going forward for this version.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Jody on this request?
I think so.
If not, okay, thanks, Jody. I think that's actually a good segue to Mike and the
Thank
IT
you.
department.
Thank you, Joey.
All right, so
Okay.
Mike's requesting switches. Mike, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. So as probably some of you know, back in 2008, the town invested quite heavily in its infrastructure in terms of fiber optics, so we can connect all of our buildings together and share data across, you know, the entire town. And for us, it's been a blessing. You know, we've expanded on it, you know, since I've come to the town in 2013. We run a number of different services over it. A lot of them very critical: police, fire, water, sewer. We communicate with, you know, every aspect of the town. You know, as Jody was alluding to a little bit earlier, her software is run over that network as well. And as you can imagine, it was put in 2008. You know, fiber optics by themselves, they just sit in the pole and it's only a wire. And the actual equipment that runs data over those wires is hit, you know, the 12-year mark. And I'm starting to hit the point now where I'm starting to see a lot of end of life on the software that's put onto those devices. So I thought it would be a good time to actually start replacing that equipment. As we replace that equipment, it gives us, you know, in the IT department, you know, many more tools to work with. You know, as you can imagine, you know, switch technology has evolved greatly over the last 12 years. So now I thought was the best time to actually, you know, get this created and move the town forward.
I have a question about the funding. I haven't seen federal funds.
I was
Patrick?
questioning that also.
For the ARPA, you mean? The ARPA federal funds? No,
Yeah.
so actually, so we've received, the town will be receiving money in ARPA funding from the state as well as from Norfolk County. Right now, we're still in the process of determining how this money can be spent. This select uses that we can use this money for. Some of it, you know, some of it is infrastructure related. They specifically kind of target water, sewer, wastewater, stormwater infrastructure, premium pay, revenue lost as a result of COVID. So we're still in the really early phases of this. In fact, the town finance team, we were posing questions to our financial advisors earlier today with some of the other managers in Norfolk County to see how they're planning to spend the money. And at this time, we're all just looking for some direction and guidance from either the state or from the U.S. Treasury about the guidelines for spending this money. So I know that Jim is working on a list that he's planning on going over with the select board about possible projects, but until we can get some definitive guidance, a project like this is not part of that money. This is going to be part of the capital budget.
So you have both town funds and federal funds on this request. If we can't use the federal funds, do we have the money to fund it with town funds?
Oh, excuse me. So sorry. This was when Mike was filling out this form here. How will the expenditure be funded? He was, I think, at the time we were possibly looking at federal funds, but if you scroll back up here, I can do that. What we're proposing. Oh my God. Excuse me for 1 second. The funding source that we're proposing for this one, I think it's right here. It's just we're proposing free cash for
Okay,
this.
that's why I asked, because I
Okay.
wasn't sure why. So this is just a back. Okay.
Yeah, so actually there's nothing in this capital budget that's being funded through federal dollars.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Patrick, what about the cable fund? Is there anything in there that could go towards this, or would this fall under that blanket?
That was something that Jim and I were looking at when the capital budget was being formulated, but that wasn't something that he wanted to fund with cable money.
Okay. And the question to Mike, is this going to cover 50% of the town, 75, 100%? How many of the switches is this going to actually take care of?
We're gonna have 14 nodes in the network right now for the town side. And I think it was like 4 years back, we actually split with the school department and gave them half the network, which they've actually already replaced their switches on their side. I think it was 2 years ago. So they've already gone through the upgrade. They requested cash and eventually upgraded all of their switches across the board. So this is the other half of the network. At one time, my department did cover all the schools as well, but we kind of divvied up the workload a few years back and just kind of made us easier to manage it on both sides.
Okay, good. So this will take care of all the municipal side, and we should be 100%
Right.
town-wide.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mike? If not, we'll switch over to culture and recreation. Is that all right with you, Ed?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Let's see what we got here. Okay, so for the recreation department, I think we have Brendan Croak, the recreation director. Are you on, Brendan?
I am, yep.
All right, you want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. Thanks for everybody having me here. Just a couple quick items. The first of which is the pool sanitation system replacement. Specifically, we have 3 chlorinators at our different aquatics facilities. Basically, those chlorinators are in charge of keeping our pools sanitized. Over time, they do break down, given the fact that they're using chlorine, so the parts do break down over time. So this is just to replace those 3 units. It is time. I believe they were last replaced about 5 years or so ago. We've kind of mixed and matched with parts here and there, so it is time to replace those. The actual quote that I received a couple months ago came to $16,670. I have been told that due to everything that's going on, there could be an increase in the parts, the cost of the parts. So that would explain why I raised the price a little bit in anticipation that may happen. So that's about it as far as the chlorinators go. If anyone has any other questions.
If not, we can keep going. Is that all right with you, Ed?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, you go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, so the second piece here is the Recreation Department strategic plan and feasibility study. For quite some time, I don't even believe there's one in existence for the rec department that I'm aware of. So basically, the funds here, if approved, would just go towards working with a company to develop a strategic plan, give us a little bit more focused efforts on where we can improve things. Specifically, my thought is that the pools are going to be heavily involved in that in that report that they come up with. So this also would cover, hopefully, a portion of the design services for a potential new pool. So right now, that number is very vague. I did contact a few other departments in the area who have done this, and it came anywhere between $35,000 and $50,000 is what they were charged for their strategic plan. So again, hopefully this does cover that cost, but we'll know more once we start to solicit some more information.
So this whole study will be like a master plan, and then it'll prioritize what needs to be worked on or replaced or updated.
Yeah. Again, we don't have anything like that currently for our department, and given the different locations, our pools, Blackburn Hall, and some of the programming and other day-to-day operations, we don't have anything formal here to kind of guide us. So we're looking to get that in place.
Yeah, Ned, what we're looking for this is kind of like a smaller scale version of that McGuire report that we did back in 2013 that would come in, give us some an assessment of our present the infrastructure at the rec department, between Jarvis Farm, the pools, some of the playgrounds, and you'll notice there are playgrounds that are on the capital plan, but what we essentially want to do, we were standing at the South Pool, me, Brendan, and Jim back in June, and these pools, some of these, the one across the street from Town Hall is almost 100 years old, so we keep putting patches on it, and every year we get to the that first, second, third week in June, we start filling up water, like, okay, do we have any leaks? So we figured